we've known each other a long time, and
26 years.
Something
like that, 1996.
Okay, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
It's so special to be back here at the Center for Yoga with you. You know, in the late 90s, I think we were both in Santa Monica, and Santa Monica felt like the mecca of yoga.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
You know, it's like everybody went through there, and we didn't know that it was just the beginning of the wave of yoga.
Yeah.
How did you come to yoga?
Well, I had turned 40, and I started working out with weights, and I thought I would get farther with a coach. So I went to the guy that, I don't remember his name, but he trained Bruce Springsteen, and I couldn't afford him but once a month. His name was Todd, and one day, and he was shorter and he was thicker than me, and one day he's standing in front of a mirror, and he's reaching back and he's grabbing his arms, which I could never do. And I said, Todd, how, what? And he walked into his office and pulled out, in those days, Brian Kest had a postcard. It was a flyer. One picture was him doing a twist, and the other side was his schedule. I went and never went back to lifting weights.
So Brian Kest was kind of your first influence.
I'm one of two people that he allowed into the advanced class off the street. There's only two of us. Everybody else, you got to do 10 classes.
So the 90s, what kind of yoga did Brian teach?
You know, he coined and one other yoga teacher, Beryl Bender-Birch, coined the phrase power yoga about the same time, and he copyrighted it anyway, and it was basically a flow yoga. Brian was an Ashtangi for a long period of time, and it was a flow yoga based on that, I believe.
It's so interesting how these lineages, you know, this thread, you know, I've spoken with quite a few people, myself included. In the late 80s, we studied Ashtanga Vinyasa, you know,
yep.
and then that kind of morphed into what is called Vinyasa or flow
yep.
yoga, and
yep.
you know, all the different variations of flow yoga. How would you characterize the classes you teach now?
Well, I needed more. As you previously mentioned, I had a martial art background, fairly extensive one too. So I needed more, because Brian could care less about alignment and stuff like that. So that was, you know, in that teacher's training in 1996, he hired you to do a weekend Iyengar workshop for
Oh
us.
my, I remember that.
Yeah. That was where we met, and there was a lot of it that appealed to me at the time, you know, because I was already no longer a teenager, especially structure and alignment and containment and so I teach a hybrid. What I would, you know, I am very much involved with alignment, and I am very much, you know, and I'm a big fan. You know, for me, a foundation, the bottoms of the feet. Mm-hmm. I don't hear any yoga teachers talking about the bottoms of the feet, and probably 70% or 75% of all flow classes are done standing poses. If the floor is off, everything above it's fakakta. You know, so yeah, I would refer to myself as definitely a vinyasa teacher, but a hybrid.
A synthesis.
Yes.
Yes. Synthesis.
Yes.
So, in addition to yoga, you know, I know you as an amazing photographer. You know, I mean, I'm just and a lover of dogs. You know, probably your best model is your dog. I feel the same way.
Oh
you
my
know?
God. Oh my God.
They bring out these, you know, this wonderful little sensibility in us. But photography, where did that start?
It started with my daughter's Sweet 16, and I bought a digital camera, and I went online to learn what to do with it, other than have it be an expensive point and shoot. And I found a guy who specialized in something called HDR, high dynamic range photography. It's a technique, and it allows you to bring out more. And that's where it started. And one night, I was never the creative one in my family. It was my mother, it was my brother. I was built to schlep. I was, So, and I took this picture of the pier, and it was the first.
Santa Monica Pier?
It's Santa Monica Pier. It's my favorite. It's one of, because it's there and it's a great foreground element. And it was my very first picture of the pier, and it was the first time in my life where I had to step back in amazement at something that I can't. That's one of the things I love about photography is, yeah, I'm the guy pointing the box, but I'm not the guy who created that. So it's my chance to be there, and it was so much of what the promise of yoga is for me, an opportunity because what's in my way of being is all the incessant noise in my head. Opinions, judgments, all that stuff. And it goes away.
I know you've mentioned with your photography finding the isness that is there.
Well, yeah.
And that, in a way, with the yoga, I guess.
Sometimes I don't take pictures. Sometimes just being there is just the best. It's just nectar.
The nectar, being present with
That's
what
what
arises.
it is. It's being present, And yeah, I'm the guy with the box, and I frame it, and I edit it later, and I do what I do with it. But it's more about communicating the experience of being there.
And how does that happen in our yoga practice?
Well, for me, it was, especially starting with Brian, because one of the things that Brian stresses is focus. Well, focus on what? Well, sure, it starts with the breath, but the breath is just a gateway, There was we go through life and there are things that happen, and there was really a catastrophic thing that happened in my life, and I went to my yoga practice, and Shavasana was where I could let go and cry. The practice itself was where I could get quiet with what was going on, with the feelings that were going on with me, underneath all the thoughts, but given my background, I deal with everything but joy with anger. My feelings are hurt, I get angry. So I got to get underneath it, to the pain, and let it go. That to me is a deeper level of being than just a surface rage. Rage for me is a very, at least now anyway, is a very surface thing that, we as people tend to identify with. We never say, I have anger. We say, I am angry. So we immediately identify with it, and the moment we do, we lose power. Because that's who we are, that's who we're being.
It has us.
It has us, exactly.
Yeah.
The trigger is, and you're just off. But the yoga allowed me at least to slow down enough, to get enough distance from it enough to find what the truth was.
It's fascinating how you frame that, because what comes to my mind is fight, flight, freeze.
Yes.
So depending on our upbringing, I know in my upbringing, my parents were both only children. They were emotionally unresponsive, so it was more kind of freeze. I didn't see much expression. And so in my yoga, well, in my teaching, it wasn't until I started teaching that I learned how to become more expressive,
Yes.
So it was through the yoga, it was through the practice, it was through showing up. So I had to learn through the yoga.
And you have a relationship with Guruji. It was always something
Yeah.
that I wanted to, and I missed it. But I'm sure.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the relationship that I had with my teacher, Guruji Iyengar, because so it sounds like the yoga kind of taught you that underneath that, the reactivity of the anger, was the vulnerability and the calm and the peace. I had to learn through a very strict teacher, because Iyengar, I'm shorter than he, and he was like 5'2", he was not very tall. And so when I would assist in classes, he was like slapping me all the time. And I thought, oh, I'm just happened to be conveniently at his, And then what I realized is, I was kind of being little me.
Right.
But what he wanted was for me to know what he knew before he asked for it. He wanted me to step it up.
Right.
And, so I had to kind of, through that practice and through that, so the teacher-student relationship is sometimes, really difficult.
It is. It truly is.
No, I had to kind of go through that. It was his fire that kind of unfroze my natural tendency to freeze, because I didn't see that expressivity.
Yeah.
So whether it's a teacher, whether it's the yoga, whether it's life, just the practice and showing up, finding the isness.
And just if I can jump in with about dogs.
Yes.
Be Here Now.
Ramdas.
Ramdas, his newest book, or his latest book, when he talks about bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, which is really just basically the love of God. Mm-hmm. Now I'm an atheist, so that's not. I don't deify, but this dog, because I've had other dogs and they were pets and they were nice and I loved them. But this is like my canine soulmate. This dog has opened my heart to love in a way that nothing. I'm married 31 years. I adore my wife, I adore my children. But there was other conversation in the way. I was afraid on my first child, I was afraid I was gonna break her or drop her in some way, and then she grew into being a mommy's girl and she would like push me away to the second one wasn't, but still, an animal is pure. There's no guile. There's no thought process. It's just, and it brought out that same, it opened my heart in that same way where I could finally get what Ram Dass was saying, that, if this is God, again, maybe it's my mind snot. The root of the word believe is lie. And I believe the truth believed is a lie. But the truth experienced is the truth.
Oh, Caleb, I love that.
Always the truth. But you can't put it into words. You can't, and we're human. We're meaning-making machines. It's what we do. So the truth becomes the rule.
Right.
The moment it does, it's no longer the truth.
Right.
So this was a way that I could experience, if you want to call it God, fine by me. For me, it's just a pure love that radiated, and I'm jealous, he slept downstairs last night with my daughter's friend, and I was like,
where's my puppy?
It's like, I feed you, I walk you, I take care of you, I do all this stuff. And then he just came up and just looked at me the way he always looks at me. And you know, you're
Well,
seeing.
I would venture to say, though, that as we get older, and we've both been around a while, that it's not that it was this dog, although I'm sure there was something about this dog, but you were ready.
Yeah.
You were ready, you
Yeah.
know. And they say, you know, when
The teacher comes when you're ready.
there's a funny, you know, sleeve on a coffee cup that I just found recently that says, "May you be the person your dog sees you as."
You know, I posted his face and I said, I try to be the dog, I try to be the person that he thinks I am.
Yeah.
And I bask in his forgiveness when I'm not. Because he never doesn't forgive me. He's always, it's just always pure love.
So, did you know we were born in the same year?
Yes,
That was a good year.
it was a very good year.
Chuck Miller was born in that year.
Yes, he was.
And
In fact, Chuck and I have birthdays very close to one another. I'm June 6th, and I think he's June, I may be confusing.
You're June 6th.
I'm June 6th.
Okay.
And
Yeah, he's very close.
yeah, I think he's either June 5th or June 7th, something like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that was a good year.
It was a very good year.
So, you know, we started a long time ago, and here we are at the Center for Yoga. What is your vision for how we come back? What can we do?
I would love to see it. You know, I didn't see it in its heyday, in its quote heyday. That, you know, I didn't come here till after Yoga Works bought it. And I immediately fell in love with the place. And having, on 2 different occasions, you took my hand and led me through the place and showed me where everybody slept and everything. And then the last time Mati taught here, she took my hand and walked me through it as well. True, and I didn't tell her that you had already done it, because I wanted to savor both of them. You know, you're both my favorite. You know, 2 of my the 2 of you and Chuck are my favorite teachers. Period, and you know, had the most influence on me. I just. The seeds of love are here. You know, for me, that's what really yoga boils down to. It doesn't matter what asanas you practice. You know, where people can come. You know, there's an old saying that I'm going to steal, that yoga is the journey you take through yourself to get back to yourself. You take by yourself, through yourself, to get back to yourself. And that's what I see this as a house for. You know, people. And I have to say, you know, having said that, you know, it was slowly getting to the point where, with the big rooms and the packed houses, that I was noticing that people were getting to be a bit entitled. And it's not there now, you know.
I almost have this sense, as T.S. Eliot said, you know, I'm going to bastardize it a little bit, but, you know, may I come back to the place from which I came and know it for the first time.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
so the seeds of love, all of the many marriages and babies and classes and trainings and, you know, sweat and tears and joy and chanting and everything that we've shared here.
So happy that you guys opened it up again. I mean, you can feel it. You know, I mean, the first place, whenever I was ever hired at any other yoga studio, the first thing I would do is like, okay, I got to feel the floor.
Touch the floor.
Got to feel the floor.
It's like my 2 hands is one, my feet on the floor.
But I walked in here and I didn't have to. You walked in here and it's already oozing out of the walls, and it was just it was like coming home.
It has called us back. This space has called us back.
Yes, it has.
So I'm glad. I am so grateful that you're part of.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So am I. Back. So am I. I mean, I don't think I could have worked somewhere else.
Yay. Well, may we come home with Om.